What is Civ 6 or Civilization 6 video? Today's going to be a little different. We are going to be talking about one unknown fact for every leader in Civ 6 or Civ... Shut up, phone. Holy crap. But yeah, without further ado, the only thing really that you need to know is these aren't going to be like well-known is named Alexandria, but there are some facts about these leaders that you probably don't know about. I'm only going to do half the leaders today, and we'll save the half for another time. Why am I doing that? Well, number one, more views, but in all honesty, the real reason I'm doing this is because it takes a while to get the facts, and some leaders, I have a hard time finding the facts, and really now I am just focusing on the leaders I found the facts for, which took me a while, and I'll do the facts and set them up for another video. But without further ado, let's get started with order. Now, the thing about Alexander is that when he died, his tomb was first brought to Alexandria and buried there in Egypt, Alexandria in Egypt, not in any other place. But to this day, nobody knows exactly where he was buried. Heck, it might not even be in Alexandria to rest or anything, and if that isn't a Scooby-Doo type mystery that needs to be solved, I don't know what is. Number two, we have a Minotaur. Now, a Minotaur built 200 pyramids over her lifetime. Now, granted, they weren't like Egyptian massive super pyramids, but that is still pretty damn impressive. She actually holds the record for the most pyramids built in a lifetime by any one ruler. I think, fairly certain, that's what I read. Again, source, trustmebro.com, but let's move on to number two. We have Ambirix. Ambirix was known for leading a revolt from Belgium and even destroying a Roman legion after convincing them to set up shop somewhere else, leave their defensive garrison. And as they were moving through the forest, his allies came in, swooped in from all sides, surrounded the legion, destroyed it, and these guys were celebrating for a bit until Caesar came back earlier than expected and pretty much deleted Ambirix's tribe from the game of life. Now, before we continue, as always, if you have anything to add to this video, maybe any other comments, maybe any other facts you want me to put in the next video, let me know down below. And if you have enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, let's continue with number four. We have Batrio. Now, Batrio literally woke up one day and said, you know something? Screw the Chinese, I'm building an army, and she built an army and embarrassed the Chinese for years. This gets even better, right? The lore behind the whole Chinese thing is that China was in control of Vietnam, and they weren't the best rulers, right? Massacres and public burnings really aren't going to entice you to the local population, but a lot of Vietnamese died under the Chinese, and the thing about Chinese that makes this even funnier is that they were under Confucianism at the time, which practiced the inferiority of women in combat. That's not me. Don't cancel me, Twitter. That's ancient Confucianism. And imagine the look on their faces when Batrio, a woman, they knew it was a woman, absolutely embarrassed them in the field for years. They eventually caught her, but not after dealing a lot of damage to the Chinese. I mean, it was a lot. But let's move on right now. We have Basil II. Now, Basil was known as the Bulgar Slayer. Why was he known as the Bulgar Slayer? Well, he slayed the Bulgars, otherwise known as Bulgarians. Bulgarians hate him, and that isn't a clickable YouTube thumbnail. That is literally, Bulgarians did not like him. He took back Bulgaria after it rebelled, and pretty much completely massacred every Bulgarian in his path. He really did not like that group of subset of people. Next up, we have Catherine de' Medici. Now, Catherine de' Medici is known as the Queen Consort of France at a time. However, she was married when she was 14, right? She had like 6 kids. 3 of them went on to be kings of France. That's good parenting, right? That's just 3 of your kids become kings of France. Good parenting at that point, proof in the pudding, I guess you could say. But yeah, Catherine de' Medici, a really interesting leader in France's history. After that, we have Chandragupta, and little known fact about him, he was actually known as Chandragupta, and was the first Civ 6 leader to subscribe to the Civ Lifer on YouTube and twitch.tv/CivLifer1 on Twitch. That's okay, that's a joke, but in all honesty, he was known as the first emperor of India, began the first Mauryan Empire, the first empire ever in India, and his exploits were told about in Greek, Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain texts. This guy was literally the first ever Mr. Worldwide. After that, we got Cleopatra. Cleopatra, we all know a lot about Cleopatra, but did you know she was inbred? Like, no joke at all. She was literally, both her parents were together, and she was the product she was literally inbred, and despite that fact, she was actually the smartest woman in the Mediterranean at the time. I know, intelligence and inbreeding usually don't go together, but this time it did, and she was the strongest woman, smartest woman, if not the smartest person in the Mediterranean at the time. Next up, we have Cyrus of Persia. That is right. Cyrus was known as actually the most, I guess, Jew-loving leader in history. This guy, unlike a lot of civs in history, actually freed the Jews and said, you guys can do whatever the hell you want after taking out the Lydian kingdom and Babylon, which is pretty damn insane, considering the history of of those people, and Cyrus being really the first person to really ever accept them. That's pretty cool. Props to Cyrus, only leader who won't get canceled in 2020. I'm sure they find a way. After that, there is Dido of Carthage. Now, Dido was actually known as a Phoenician leader with her brother, but after her father's death, she was like, you know what, screw you, moved with her followers and founded the city of Carthage. This is why Carthage is known as a subset of Phoenicia, and it's pretty cool. She literally said, screw her brother, and said, I'm going to start a new family, a new kingdom without you, filled with traitors, and that's what she did. Next up, we have Eleanor of Aquitaine. Now, the thing about Eleanor is she was part of the Crusades. No, I'm not. Like, she literally was part. She wasn't part. She went to Jerusalem. Like, she literally went to Constantinople and then Jerusalem. She was part of that party that went to. She was a part of the Crusades, which is a lot more than a lot of Reddit users. That's pretty much what every Reddit user wants at this point. But she was a part of the Crusades, and she actually went to Jerusalem with the party, with the army. After that, we have Frederick Barbarossa. We got a back-to-back Crusader fact. He was actually about to join Richard the Lionheart and attack Saladin from two fronts. However, he drowned in a river on the way and his army had to turn back. So, that wasn't exactly cash money of that river. But, I mean, hey, you know what? Maybe history wouldn't be where it is right now. After that, we have... have to probably change my notes here. After that, we have Gandhi of India. Now, the thing about Gandhi, not Genghis, you're coming in later. Chill out. Gandhi of India was actually known as a complete vegetarian. He refused to drink milk of any kind. When he got older and started getting some health problems, he began drinking goat's milk. This isn't the fun fact yet, trust me. Now, we all know how sacred cows are in India. This man refused to drink anything other than goat's milk and literally carried a pet goat around with him at all times, even when traveling, so he could have fresh goat's milk at any time he wanted, which is that's a pretty good way to solve that problem. Next up, we got Genghis Khan. Now, we all know Genghis Khan has like a bajillion ancestors or descendants, but did you know that 10% of people in Mongolia are directly related to Genghis? Directly related to Genghis, by the way. And 1 in 200 people in the entire world, 0.5% of the entire world's population, is directly related to Genghis. That means you go up far enough in the family tree, you will literally find Genghis Khan. That is absolutely insane. This man was a strategic military commander, but he was a freak on the court and in the sheets, if anybody knows that meme. Oh my god. After that, we are going to have Gilgamesh. Now, we all know that Gilgamesh, he might not be real. Gilgamesh is really mostly known from his book, the Epic of Gilgamesh, stuff like that. He's really more of a story. But did you know Gilgamesh was probably, in all likelihood, real? I'm not even joking. It was a real leader, a real person. Obviously, the epics of Gilgamesh stretched out the tale a little bit. He wasn't a literal god. He couldn't literally move mountains, I don't think, at the very least. But he was probably a real leader, which is definitely brings a smile to my face knowing that this dude definitely led an empire sometime in the past. Next up, we got Katarsia. Now, did you know that Katarsia was the queen of the Majapahit at the same time that her prime minister, Gajamada, which is a leader in Civilization 5, was the prime minister? Like, the Indonesia's leader in Civ 6 and Civ 5, pretty much the leaders of the Majapahit, were both working together, her as the queen, and Gajamada as the prime minister and military ruler. That's pretty cool, pretty interesting. They actually extended the Majapahit to their greatest extent at the time, and it's pretty cool. Next up after that, we have Gorgo. Gorgo was actually the biggest political player in Sparta after the death of Leonidas. Like, nothing got passed without Gorgo, even when her son ascended to the throne, which, pretty cool, pretty cool. And, yeah, the Spartans are known for treating their women as, essentially as equal as you can get during those ancient times. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. After that, we got Hammurabi. This is one I know for a fact none of you know about. Hammurabi actually was king, right? Yeah, I know you know who is king, but he actually worked in construction during his time as king. Not even joking. He literally oversaw his own construction projects and took part in helping to build the monuments or buildings or whatever the hell he was building, which is probably the only leader in the history of the world who's ever done that. So props to you, Hammurabi. This man just got down and dirty, which is something I can definitely respect. After that, we got Harold Hardrada. Now, Harold Hardrada was actually never known by that name during his lifetime by anybody. He wasn't. He was known by different things, but he was never known as Harold Hardrada. Like, you could literally use some sort of, like, reanimation jutsu or something, bring him back from the dead, and say, "What's up, Harold Hardrada?" And he'd just be looking around all confused, probably because he's been reanimated, but also because, you know, who the hell's Harold? That's pretty interesting. But Harold Hardrada is still a cool name, so I know why they chose that for Civ 6. I understand why. Next up, we got Hojo Tokimune. He really has his unique ability or his unique agenda really makes sense after hearing the story. This man literally pushed back the Mongolian invaders so hard that they refused to reinvade Japan until he actually passed away. Now, the other thing is, he actually was the biggest proponent of spreading Zen Buddhism throughout Japan. So this man was literally, you know, it makes sense. He had a big military, and he had a lot of faith and culture, which is pretty nice, pretty damn interesting. Next up, we have Judith Wiga. Now, the thing about Judith Wiga is we know she was the king of Poland, but she actually became king at the age of 10 years old. That is right. Her father was like a popular Polish king or whatever, and the one thing he couldn't do was actually get a male heir. So instead of marrying his daughters off and picking a successor or anything, he said, "You know what? Screw you guys. My daughter is the new heir, and you guys can suck it." And then he died, and she became king at the age of 10. How would you even be a king at the age of 10? How would that even, like, process during your brain? Like, I could literally get this man executed for no reason at all, and I could literally declare war and kill whoever the hell it's weird, right? But in anyways, she was king at the age of 10, and she actually died at the age of 25. After that, we have Zhao Jayavarman. It's Jayavarman who is next. Jayavarman VIII was actually built the temple at Angkor Thom, pretty impressive, but he was actually a military mastermind, spreading the Khmer Empire, modern-day Cambodia, to its greatest extent at the time. After that, we have Zhao III. Now, the thing about Zhao III that is pretty interesting, he was a big proponent in spreading the Portuguese empire, but his marriage to Catherine, a Habsburg, was actually the reason that Philip II was able to get the Iberian Union and actually bring Portuguese under the Spanish flag for a couple of decades. So, you know, him doing that, you know, it's just the domino effect at that point. And marrying that one person pretty much made Spain like the super duper global superpower for like 10 years. After that, we are going to have, after Zhao III, we have John Curtin. Don't worry about Stalin. That's still a mod I have. But we have John Curtin. Now, this one is going to shock a lot of you. Maybe not some Australians, but definitely a lot of you. John Curtin was a monstrous alcoholic and was actually a communist, at least during his early days of life. Sources: trustmebro.com. Go ahead and check it out. But no, in all seriousness, this man was actually writing for a Marxist newspaper. He joined labor unions, and for the most part, he was at the very least a very far-left socialist. But him writing for the Marxist newspapers is going to have me call him a communist, and nobody is going to stop me. So that's pretty interesting, actually, considering he was one of the biggest leaders of World War II for the Allies. Yeah, that's pretty much it for him. After that, we have finally Christina. Now, this Christina one is super interesting. She was probably intersex. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means she was probably both at once. Now, that is just pretty, like, that is weird. Now, it's literally like archaeologists and historians have told you that. It's not like anybody making it up on the internet. I made sure to double and triple check this fact. She was, at the very least, she was 100% not a, how do I say this without Twitter going up in flames? She wasn't a normal woman for the time period, I guess. Like, she wasn't, her build and everything, when you looked at her, she didn't look like the other woman during her time period. And due to that, there was a very, very high chance, also with all the evidence, that she was essentially intersex. The thing is, though, she was like extremely smart as well. So that is something that you definitely have to give her credit for. She was like an absolute genius at the time. But yeah, that is going to be it. If you guys have enjoyed and want to see the next 25 leaders, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you have not, and let me know in the comments anything about any leaders, even the ones we just did, any facts you have about them that might be lesser known or unknown, and who knows, I might even remake the series in some time, or I might even use your tips for the video in the future, obviously after giving you credit. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace. Huge shout out to my members: Cash, Christian, Ben Ownby, John Blair, Jackson Perez, Polaris Gaming, Emporium, Jeff Utzler, Kim Cosmos, and a really special shout out to my oh my god subscribers, Robert and Overflow of Amenities.